So a lot of people wonder how I get so much done, especially because you know I work mostly alone. I have been for the last 10 years or so. And the reason is that I'm become... I'll have to look that up, see what variety of apple this is. It's got a few trees in this orchard that we just planted last spring that already have fruit being produced. In a lot of cases you want to cut this back so you don't get fruit production in the second year, but they were pretty old trees, so, and they went into really rich soil, so they ended up probably setting some pretty good roots. And there's plenty of top vegetation, so I'm happy enough to let them produce a few apples. I did prune this or trim out the apples, quite a few, probably equal amount of what I left on here, which is not a lot. It's like 6 or 8 apples. So I took that many off, or maybe even a little bit more, just so that this tree could put its energy into the fruit that's left, and also into continued root growth and vegetation, branch growth. Anyway, I'm happy with that. I'm not sure how many in this orchard that are producing this year, but then I've got some older stuff, trees that I planted 3 or 4 or 5 years ago that are producing down in the more the primitive, like, food forest area down there where it's less manicured. They see me out here and they're waiting for me to throw some vegetation in there for them to eat, since I'm not letting them free range in this garden yet. I'm coming. This garden is a good example of what I talk about in 52 Weeks to Self-Reliance, that book that I wrote, Perennial Gardens. I'm not big into a lot of maintenance or a lot of work once I have something established. So even though I work hard to get them established, I get bored with the maintenance, to be honest. So I like things like a food production system to produce on its own without me putting a lot of time into it. So I've always tried to build these systems that allow things to maintain themselves or to operate on their own. This sprinkler system, this irrigation system we put in, that's one example of that. So when we get a dry year, it continues to get watered. Typically, we don't need irrigation for probably 75% of the growing season, but late July and August and sometimes September, we actually do need irrigation. So far this year, I have been running it occasionally, but we've had a pretty good mix of rain along with the hot sunny days. So that's not a big deal, but this mulch, the more mulch I can put down, the better. It actually needs to be topped up right now. I'm seeing all this food, they call food in my hands. They're calling for it. Yeah, all this mulch, I need to top it up in order to suppress the weeds more, but that's really the solution for me, is come in once or twice a year and just put as much wood chip down as I possibly can, and that suppresses the weeds and continues to fertilize the garden as it breaks down, as it composts. So it's a little out of hand right now, but like I said, I've spent hardly any time in this garden, which is pretty big. It's over 1/4 of an acre. I've hardly spent any time actually in here maintaining it. I'm going to feed this to them and then continue to do a little bit more weeding. Then I think I have chips, because I do have a wood chipper, so I do have enough mulch that I can start putting it down. So I think I might do that today as well. Do some weeding, throw some mulch down in those sections that I weed, and then let it go for another year probably. There you go. What's up? sprayed these apples with clay a few times. Keep the bugs off, because I see they all have wormholes in them. The first year for this one to produce hazelnuts. Planted these, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago, I would say. But it takes a while for them to start producing. So that's the first of the filberts, you would probably call them. Pretty good amount on it too. I think there's 2 or 3 bushes that have them on them. Yep. Oh, what are you doing there? What do you have, a ball? Everybody back in the garden again. Was in here this morning for a little, 15 minutes maybe, doing those beds there. Beds and walkways. This one here took 5 minutes to completely, although there's some, not completely. Well, they're probably all loose. All the weeds are and grass is out of the pathways, or unrooted, let's say. Yeah. So it took like 5 minutes to go through with this hoe, and then a couple of minutes to rake it up and take it into the chickens. So a lot of people wonder how I get so much done, especially because, you know, I work mostly alone. I have been for the last 10 years or so. And the reason is that I'm become very efficient at choosing my tools and with my managing my time. And that's for sure the secret to my success, but also to having a balanced life, because what probably most people don't realize is how much time I actually spend with my family, not just working on my own. So this is one of the tools specifically that allows me to do that. So efficient. I bought this at Lee Valley Tools probably 15, maybe more years ago. I have another one similar to this that has one blade, and I'll show it to you up close. But that allows me just to go down an aisle like this really quickly, and even get into the beds with the corner of it to target specific weeds instead of just a broadcast type sweep through. Because I don't want to do this, let's say in this garden where I have this fig that's coming up that we planted in here last fall after growing it in a pot last year. But yeah, you can get in pretty close with that fine diamond shaped head on this. Anyway, efficiency. So what's interesting is that, and I highly recommend you do this, write as much as you can. I've kept a journal probably since I started hunting when I was 15. And I've been able to refer back to those notes many times in my lifetime. I find it cathartic, and I find it good for organizing my thoughts. And now that I've started turning it into a book, I'm glad to have all those reference documents, all those reference journals. But I find that writing really makes you think more, makes you pay more attention to your thoughts and your activities, because when you write something down, you identify things maybe that you shouldn't be doing. So it allows you to prioritize things a little bit better. Anyway, through writing these books that I've been writing, including the 52 Weeks to Self-Reliance that you can get in the link below in the description, efficiency and time management has been, like I said, probably the thing that has made me have as fulfilled a life as I do, as I feel I do. Like I said, I spend a lot of time with family, and that's only because I get a lot done when I'm working. So it might not look like that with the hand tools, but because I'm efficient in everything else I do, it allows me to do things the way I want to do them, things that bring me pleasure, and working with hand tools is one of those things. Now, sometimes hand tools are actually quicker, especially when you factor in maintenance and repairs, adding fuel, like let's say a chainsaw for doing the fine log work, like the notches, for example. I find that I can get it pretty close. I can get it done almost just as fast with the hand tools, but then I don't have to get fuel, don't have to pay for gas and oil. And I just find that, you know, having a breakdown, then having to pick something up to fix that thing, or to get it repaired, or to get parts or something, I find is actually more time consuming than just having done it with the hand tool. Anyway, specifically in the garden, I wanted to show you this tool and how it allows me to do a 40-foot bed in that short a time. Yeah, 10, 20, 30, yeah, 38 feet or something. No, that's 40 feet. That's a 10-foot or two. It's a 40-foot long pathway and at least one bed. I've been picking weeds from both sides. So the other thing is stacking functions. What I mean by that is that you try to get as many things accomplished with one task as you possibly can, or maybe with one tool. And in this case, when I'm weeding in the garden like this, what I'm doing is collecting all these weeds and grass, picking it up, and I'm feeding it to the chickens. The chickens are eating it, and they're eating the bugs that come in with the weeds that I throw in there, and also the bugs that come out of the ground and are attracted to the weeds, and the piles of compost that I put in there, or weeds and plants that I put into the chicken coop. So that provides them food, nutrition. It means I don't have to go and buy as much food or grow as much food specifically for them. So that's two functions right there. They provide eggs and meat, which is another function, and they provide manure, which is a great fertilizer. So rather than take this organic material off-site, like a lot of people do in a leaf bag or something, and send it off to the municipal waste center, I keep it on. In fact, I never want to export nutrients from the property. I want to bring them in, if anything. So the sun creates growth through photosynthesis. That creates bulky material, draws up nutrients from the soil. I give it to the chickens, they absorb that, they pass it through their system. I take their manure, I put it back into the compost pile, or they've composted it pretty good right in their chicken coop. I can just dig that soil up and spread it on top of the beds. So that's a whole lot of things accomplished with one thing that I'm doing here in the garden, stacking functions. So efficiency, time management skills, that's how I've got to where I am. No matter what you're doing, whether you're trying to live off-grid or self-reliant or on a homestead or just modern life, the more time management skills you can acquire and develop over time, the better. Speaking of that, so again, in the link below, I've got that book, and I can keep, if you subscribe, you'll see what other books I've got coming up. One that I'm working on right now, hopefully available for this fall. It tells a lot more of my story, but also it's helpful, I think. But the other thing is down below, I'll give a link to a free little guide, 50 tips, basically for time management and efficiency. Anyway, I'm going to dump this in for the chickens, and I'm going to get back to work. Got some more work to do on the maple sugar shack this afternoon before the rain comes. No, not red, but it's orange. This is a hardy kiwi, and this up here is sour cherry, and there's lots of them ripe. Make a pretty good jam and a really good juice. If you have gout, I had this gout before I changed my diet, which is a really painful, not disease, whatever it is, malady that affects your joints, and it found it quite painful, but sour cherries actually completely cleared it up.
Well, I had it while I was eating that way. Once I stopped eating all the things that would trigger that, I stopped taking this and I'm fine. But anyway, sour cherry, easy to grow too up here. And the ones that are overripe, which there is a bunch here, chickens love them too. Everybody, welcome back to the cabin. Thanks for watching that video. I really appreciate it. If you're interested in this kind of content, then don't forget to subscribe by clicking on this button below. And if you want to watch more in this series, you can click on the playlist up here or the next video that I've uploaded down here. Thanks for watching.